Welcome back on the Markets Club podcast. We were talking with commodity markets and new agricultural products into the agricultural industry for farmers and ranchers in the agricultural sector. We were going to talk about new technology to get better yield for your pocket for your operation. We were talking about it with Bill Rose for Acre Shield. We were talking about new products for Acre Shield with Bill. We were going to talk with Brady Huck from Advanced Trading in Dodge City branch of Advanced Trading with Brady. You can listen to our show on YouTube and Amazon whenever that you get your podcast. We were coming back with Bill Rose for Acre Shield. Stay tuned on the Markets Club podcast.
Appreciate the opportunity to be on your show. Thank you very much. I'm excited to talk about what we're doing and where we're going.
Let's start with our conversation about your company and the technology. Could you tell our listeners about your mission to the farmers?
Yep. I'm a kid that is from Dyersville, Iowa. You ever hear of that movie, The Field of Dreams? Well, my bus used to go past that field 2 times a day. And when I was getting ready to go off to college, the interest rates in the early 80s were close to 22%. And my dad told me, whatever you do, don't get into ag. And unfortunately, some of our friends lost their farms. Those were very difficult times. And I built my whole career on really viewing life from the lens of a farmer and my farming friends. And the previous ventures that we have built, from Crop One Insurance, where we took technology and we got approved by the USDA to pass a savings on to the American farmers of over $50 million, to the biotech yield endorsement that we created with Monsanto when Roundup Ready came out, which farmers that planted the Roundup Ready BT gene were able to save a lot on their crop insurance. We've always had this passion for our farming friends. And when I go back to Dyersville, I get to sit down with my buddies and go, what do you think of the following ideas? And today we're going to talk about a pretty exciting idea that we've, from a dream to a vision to execution, and how we're helping farmers with smarter seed selection and also a really unique performance protection. Oh, didn't have my video on. That helps. Yes. Truth be told, on that gravel road, Cesar, I probably, had my first date on that gravel road, but you don't forget where you came from. Farming is a very tough business, and it's one where, unfortunately, with weather volatility and low commodity prices right now, this cycle we're going through is making it even tougher. And one of the things that has been a problem that we've heard universally from all farmers throughout the Midwest is that, how do I reduce that risk, that last 15% of my historical yield? What do I mean by that is, let's say your APH on corn was 200, your historical production history. And, we've done a good job of going out there and buying crop insurance up to 80, 85%, but 80 to 85% to 100, what we call the yield gap problem. There's no protection there. And that last 15%, with depressed commodity prices being 20% lower than last year, is the difference between a profit or a loss. It's the difference between taking a vacation maybe or not. And it's always been this massive universal problem that no one's been able to fix or solve or create a solution to this problem. And we've known about this for years. And it was about 4 years ago, we started doing seed trial testing. And we were looking at the data. And imagine, a field outside of, your town there where we run 100 varieties, all planted on the same date, in the same field, in the same, we walk the fields. We make sure that from a pest and disease that everything is a level playing field. And we actually see and measure scientifically the ranking of those 100 different varieties in that field. And Cesar, I have a question for you. If we planted, 100 varieties on the same date in the same field, just in the top 30%, the best performers, what do you think the yield difference on a 200 APH might be? Can't even believe the data. I was like, guys, we must have messed up, but then we had all these trials. We run 250 locations across the Midwest. All right. And each year we would see this great variance in just the top performing hybrids and varieties. And our aha moment was, what if we could help the farmer select better performing hybrids and reduce that yield gap risk, that last 15% of yield that we really need in order to be profitable. And we took this to the world's largest reinsurer. They're rated AM Best A+, Munich Re. And with that, working with another company called Peak Assurance and GE, we were able to show them that smarter seed selection reduces risk. Makes sense. Then we were able to provide, through the AM Best rated reinsurer, a performance backstop that if you buy what we call the Acre Shield Yield Optimizer, very low cost, by the way, starts off at $5, $8, or $15, and you don't obtain 100% of your historical yield, and you fall in that yield gap, that we will pay you up to 7 times the cost of the yield optimizer. So what we're doing is we're de-risking the adoption of a farmer using the smarter seed selection tool and providing a first in the industry, a 7 times the cost potential payback if they don't achieve those yields.
I'm a fan of regenerative agriculture. You're working with big yield guys like Randy Dowdy and David Hula.
Was the question, am I working with those guys?
Yes.
We're working with a lot of very large, I call it top producers. I don't, know every customer that we signed up this year, but I am reaching out as a company. We're reaching out to them, obviously, through our distributors. We have distributors that are ag banks, crop insurance agents, seed dealers, crop consultants, people that have a trusted relationship with the farmers out there. And it's a nice commission for our distributors that make a base commission of 15%, but they are working with all types of farmers. We don't discriminate between large and small. Our battle cry is that, you have this problem called yield gap. We can help you solve that problem economically and hopefully help you sleep a little better at night after you utilize the seed intelligence, that if you don't get the performance, we're going to write you a check for up to 7 times.
Could you explain what does that work for farmers with Acre Shield?
Yeah, great question. So starting July 15th for the 25 crop year, that will be, planted for next year, we'll be offering the yield optimizer again to all the farmers so that they can, if they sign up, at low cost of $5 to $15 an acre. They will get all of our unbiased ranked seed trials. When they not only the previous years, but they'll get the 24 crop year when everything is harvested this fall. So what it means for the farmers that we can help them with their seed selection, and they also get the comfort and confidence that the seed selection they're making is backed up by our performance guarantee, which is embedded into the seed selection.
We were talking with Bill Rose from Acre Shield. Bill, what's your future of the company?
Well, we like to solve problems, Cesar, and we can't solve all the farming problems, but we are doing a lot of market research. And for anyone listening out there, feel free to call our 800 number. We answer with real people during the day. And we also have a contact us form. But what we're asking a lot of farmers is today we do seed variety testing across the Midwest, and we bring that intelligence in an easy to use format, for you to make better selection with the performance guarantee. We've been asking the farmers, would you like to see seed treatment, maybe fungicides or biologicals? What would you like to see us test next? And it looks like overwhelmingly, everyone would like to see us test biologicals. And I think we all want to believe in the biologicals and the yield claims and the performance, but we know that maybe some of them are better than others. So we look to start doing biological testing next year. It won't be easy, it's expensive, but again, we're hearing that that's a concern for our farming friends. So if we can bring the transparency as to what are the best performing biologicals, I think that could be a great value on top of the seed selection.
It is high demand for it right now.
We agree. And it's new, it's somewhat unproven. When you think of Acre Shield, we're like the Consumer Reports of seed varieties. We don't sell seed, we don't distribute seed. We work with all the seed manufacturers, close to 1,300 different varieties planted in multiple locations across the Midwest. And we bring that raw, unbiased data ranking as to what performed the best. Then we look at your field location, your soil type, your weather patterns, and we marry the data intelligence to your actual location to help you, solve the riddle of what's the best performing hybrids. It's surprising, a lot of people don't know that, but a soybean hybrid shelf life is 1 to 2, maybe 3 years, and corn's only 2 to 4 years. So those hybrid numbers are changing quite frequently. And that means just when I got something that I'm comfortable with, maybe that's no longer offered. So I have to now find a different brand and variety. And even if you love your brands, our Smarter Seed Selection, the Yield Optimizer, allows you to select by brands to see the ranking within the brands of the different varieties.
How did you decide to start with your company and the yields models?
Yeah, it goes back to our whole life has been building companies around farmer problems, and we've been fortunate in life to be successful, but it's really, I think, because of the hard work and always viewing the creation based from the lens of the farmer. If it's not good for our farming friends, we're not going to do it. So that has been a guiding principle, and solving this yield gap problem. We have some things in R&D that I can't talk about yet that'll be coming out in the future, but we're doing I think, a very nice job, at least by the response. And I want to thank all the distributors who signed up with us this year and all the farmers who signed up with this year. We thank you for your business. If we have one thing to ask, just tell a friend and spread the word. But our philosophy and mission is helping farmers prosper. And in order to do that, you need to make money. In order to make money, you need to have good yields, at the lowest possible cost. And some days you don't always get those good yields. That's the nature of our business. And we provide that very innovative performance guarantee that if something happens outside of your control, i.e. weather and things of that nature, the smarter seed selection has that backstop that if you don't get 100% of your yield, we'll write you a performance payment check up to 7 times what you paid us.
Yes, sir, that's true. Agricultural is pretty important industry in the country, especially in the economy.
Oh, it's the base of a lot of things, as you know, and it's things are changing out there. We're trying to evaluate the carbon programs. We're trying to figure out how we could potentially monetize that for our farming friends, how we could maybe provide a verified, guaranteed carbon intensity score. There's a lot of opportunities, but what we like to do is focus and execute and make sure that that we can deliver on the promises.
Do you have any final thoughts on this growing season?
Yeah, what a year, right? Based here in Iowa, we had 17 or 18 counties declared a disaster, but as designated by USDA for drought. And then we had the most rain, one of the highest records of rain in March, and we worked our way out of drought to where we had excess moisture and prevent planting. It's always difficult, with that weather and markets. And if there are tools that we can provide our farming friends to help mitigate that risk, make smarter, better decisions, that's what we're about.
Yeah, this spring is pretty weird, the too much rain or not enough. Thanks, Bill.
Well, Cesar, thank you. Keep up the great work. We're always encouraged, by your show. And if you ever have any other questions, you know how to reach me. But it's been a real honor to be on your show, and thank you.
This is Bill Rose for Acre Shield. We were coming back with Brady Huck from Advanced Trading. I'm joining with Brad Huck from Advanced Trading in Dodge City branch. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Caesar. Hope you are as well. Thanks for having me back here. Good to be back, Caesar.
Let's start with our conversation about the World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimate report from the Department of Agriculture.
Yep. Well, we had a big report today, Caesar. June WASD report. Kind of a nothing burger, though. The Russia wheat adjustment, I would call that supportive, but it didn't seem to be enough to turn the wheat market around. Kansas City wheat, Chicago wheat settled lower on the day and couldn't find any support really. But overall, I'd call the report kind of a kick the can report for the USDA, a punt into next month and the next report. Didn't seem to have any buyers today. And naturally, when you run out of buyers, sometimes they try to sell the market and build their short position back up. But got the June acreage and grain stocks report around the corner. We've got weather season upon us. I'm looking for, over the next week or so, is there going to be areas that are too dry, somebody needing a rain? We're just kind of entering that time of year. But the next few weeks, they're going to go by fast, Caesar. We're going to learn a lot more about the U.S. crop. Going to learn a lot about the safrinha crop. I don't know if we'll truly know, the Brazil, the Argentine, the Russian crop sizes for quite a while. I'd say we're kind of in that point where you watch what China does, you watch what people do, not necessarily what they say. It's good to see the export flashes that we've seen the last few days where China's buying some old crop beans. We need to keep those coming. That's a good sign. But it's silly season, and the WASD to me, Caesar, was kick the can event, and I'll turn it back to you. No, wheat harvest is upon us. We started harvesting some stuff last week and then got rained out over the weekend. I think guys are going to be picking up, getting going again with the combines pretty soon. I'd call it mixed, but maybe better than expected from early reports I've seen. Not a great wheat crop out there. Some pockets of good, some pockets of bad. If you're in a pocket of bad, you wish the prices were higher and going the other direction. But in the pockets of good, there may be some pleasant surprises out there with production. When you get rains like we saw this weekend, that impacts wheat quality. Um, I look at, going forward, what are guys going to do with this crop? I imagine a lot of wheat's going to get converted to cash with the interest rate environment that we are in. Going to want to convert those bushels to cash and pay down operating notes, eliminate the interest rate bleed that we see. But wheat harvest is upon us. Going to keep grinding here a little earlier than normal for us. Last year, I think we were, about 12 days later than this getting going and getting started. And here we are, it's hitting a little earlier, but off to a decent start. We're far from a supply problem. Back to you.
How is the cattle markets for today's world events with the bird flu?
Yes, good question. Certainly a lot of headline risk in the cattle business and the beef business. I don't expect bird flu to go away anytime soon. I think those headlines are going to come and go. The cattleman, the rancher, the feed yard guy, they've got to, be cognizant that there's certainly a lot of headline risk out there that can move these markets very quickly and unexpectedly. I'd expect more cases in cattle to come to fruition, humans. What we don't want to see is that the bird flu story, leg higher and get more intense or become a bigger issue or a bigger story. Um, so that's kind of it on the bird flu. The stock market rallying is great for the beef business. Summer weather is good for the beef business, grilling season, demand season. Funds have a long position, but it's not too long. They can certainly add more to their length. But anytime they have a long position, you got to watch for them to hit the.
It's pretty scary for this moment.
Yeah, the bird flu is absolutely. Yeah. And you never know what headline's going to come and change the game. And it's bird flu today. What will it be tomorrow? What will it be in 3 months, or a year from now?
Would you like to go to tell our listeners about the wheat yields in Kansas?
Yep. I'd say, better than expected in most areas, but been very hit and miss. There's pockets of bad. There's been some abandonment or early released from insurance, and those areas are tough. But overall, I think in Kansas, the wheat crop is not a bust. And we've got some wheat to go out there and harvest.
Do you have any final thoughts about these commodity prices and the cattle markets?
Yeah. Well, starting with the cattle markets, the pasture conditions are good. We've got some limited sellers out there. There's not feeder cattle when they go to grass, they kind of stay at grass. And when you have good pasture conditions, they stay there longer. There's no need to move them. People want to fill the pastures that you got to eat that grass off. We got a cattle on feed report upcoming next week. That's probably going to show tighter inventories and maybe some more currentness with feed yards. Look forward to that report. We might be getting a slug of some friendly reports here for the cattlemen. The beef cutout slowly climbing higher, gaining ground. It's demand and grilling season. It's great to see. But we got some competition with other meats, pork and chicken. Beef's very inelastic if you want a steak, but when it comes to ground beef and other things, there's some products that may take some of beef market share a little bit on that front. The carcass weights that are, significantly larger than they have been. We're bringing more beef to town on less animals. That's something to pay attention to. It's more beef, less animals, and that's filling some of that supply void there. Choice prime premiums, the genetics, people pay up for genetics and quality, and if you got good cattle, you got good cattle. There's a lot of reasons to be bullish the market. Encourage people to use tools and strategies that enable them to make the most of the bull markets and make the most dollars we can when the markets present the opportunities. LRP, futures, options, these are all strategies that I help customers with, and if you want help with that, feel free to give me a call. But don't when you talk general markets, grain markets, cattle markets, I would encourage, producers not to let these markets lull them to sleep. Corn, grain side of things, it's been chopping, but don't underestimate the market's ability to move. These 24 corn contract since last July has seen over $1 range. I think close to $1.20. I think we had a high of 560.65 last fall or last summer, and we just traded a February low of 446. It's a significant range. July Kansas City wheat has had a big range as well, 330 range on July KC wheat in that same time frame. We saw 873 high last July and 543 low, and here we sit at 637, kind of in the middle of that range, maybe on the lower end, but a lot can happen and a lot can change. And,
Welcome back on the Markets Club podcast. We were talking with commodity markets and new agricultural products into the agricultural industry for farmers and ranchers in the agricultural sector. We were going to talk about new technology to get better yield for your pocket, for your operation. We were talking about it with Bill Rose for Acre Shield. We were talking about new products for Acre Shield with Bill. We were going to talk with Brady Huck from Advanced Trading in Dodge City branch of Advanced Trading with Brady. You can listen to our show on YouTube and Amazon whenever that you get your podcast. We were coming back with Bill Rose for Acre Shield. Stay tuned on the Markets Club podcast.